Peace, peace, family. This video right here is about planetary prayer frequency. I'm going to be breaking down how, through the usurpation of our language, aka the sound octave we were able to produce at ancient times, African people using our vocal cords and our tongue, we have been cut off from direct ancestral connection as well as communication with the spiritual beings and gatekeepers of this planet. And our last medium of communication is through our emotional, aka insightful body, aka righteousness. We were able to produce, and I broke this down in a video called Alphabet Frequency. You can go watch it, family. It goes into way more in depth into what I'm finna talk about. I'm just going to touch on it light here. We were able to produce a higher megahertz frequency of sound that allowed us to penetrate deeper dimensions. So right now we are stuck on a third dimensional frequency of sound. So that being said, we speak a language composed of the alphabet vocabulary or grammatical text. So alpha, beta are the two most negative megahertz frequencies of the brain. So even me making this video right now, I'm speaking to you in the most negative source of sound that probably exists in this day and time in existence. This is why the English language is the most hardest to learn. So that being said, your tongue is actually supposed to come in contact and create friction on the roof of your mouth in order to produce electrical currents that circumnavigate all the way to your pineal gland and vibrate your mind into a point to where your brain along with your nervous system is able to produce a higher conjunction and octave of sound, which would allow you to be on a frequency of these spirit beings that are not physical, aka condensed, and speak directly to them. So this is why the African tongue was usurped from us by the oppressor. We have been literally cut off from our ancestors from even speaking to them or praying, as you can imagine. So now what would the planets have to do with this? Each planet has its own time. Days are longer and shorter on different planets in regards to how far or how close they are to the sun. Now each planet also has spirit beings or gatekeepers. And you speak to these gatekeepers predicated upon your accent. This is why your accent is created depending upon where you live at on the planet Earth, predicated upon the density level of oxygen. So your accent doesn't come from just your language. Your accent comes from how thick or how thin the air is. This produces tonal frequency. And that frequency puts you in conjunction with whatever spirit being is, let's say, the gatekeeper of that earth chakra. So with that being said, the African tonal frequency was the most highest level of spiritual sound production being produced by a humanoid entity for the entire time we existed. And that was usurped from us by the European. And now we are at a level to where we cannot communicate with our ancestors directly. So with that being said, let's say if you got an Android, you don't have FaceTime. So if the ancestors is trying to FaceTime you, they can't do that. So all you can do is text the ancestors. So the FaceTime in this particular analogy is symbolic to our old language that we don't have anymore. And the texting is symbolic to the direct communication that we have through our emotional and insightful bodies. So the ancestors' last piece of connection that we have with them is through our emotional body, through righteousness, doing what you are being told to do and what you feel is right. Because everybody don't need to be told what to do, because we feel what's right or wrong. So the ancestors are trying to guide us and channel through us internally in order to connect with us, and we cannot allow ourselves to be distracted from listening to that inner voice, because that's our last line of communication. Now let me break this down. Planets, right? Each day of the week, and I did a video on this called The Original Calendar. Go watch it. It goes more into depth. I'm not going into depth right now. Now with that being said, each day of the week is associated with the planet. So you got Saturday, which is really the first day of the week underneath this Christian, aka Gregorian calendar, but they say it's Sunday, but we're gonna start at Saturday. Satan, the worshiping of Saturn, which I'll go into in a minute. Saturn is Saturday, the sun is Sunday, the moon is Monday, Mars is Tuesday, Mercury is Wednesday, Jupiter is Thursday, Venus is Friday, and then back to Saturn, which is Saturday. Now every other day, aka every other planet, is in conjunctional force with the predecessing planet on that day every other week of the month. So I'll give you an example. Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, aka Saturn, the moon, Mercury, and Venus, are the most powerful in their vibrations every first and third week of the month. And then Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, aka the sun, Mars, and Jupiter, are the most powerful every second and fourth week of the month. So now why is this important? each of these planets have beings that you are only able to contact and conjure up through ritual or through vocalistic communication during these specific weeks and during specific times. So I give you an example. If, let's say Saturn, right? If Saturn is the most powerful on the first Saturday, the first week of the month, right? And the reason you start time in 24-hour intervals is not just because the spherical circumference of the planet puts the sun at different positions geographically, but also the first hour on specific days tells you when the planet is at its highest potency of power. So for example, 12 o'clock a.m., right? From 12 to 1 a.m., Saturn is coming into its first level of full frequency. So if you was to do a ritual on the first Saturday, the first week from 12 to 1, there's a certain spiritual being and gatekeeper who's actually available for you to communicate with for that first hour. And then from 2 to 3, there's another being. Then from 3 to 4, there's another being. All the way until you come back full surface. Then once that day is over for the first Saturday of the week, now we go to Monday. Those beings are now gone. And now you're dealing with Mars. So now, same thing. On Mars, from 12 to 1, you got a being. And then from 1 to 2, you got a being. And from 3 to 4, you got a being. And then so on and so forth. So now let's say we go to the second week. Now we're not dealing with the first conjunction of planets, which was Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now we're dealing with Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So now the first Sunday of the week, in the second week of the month, you have a being that's most present and available to be communicated with from 12 to 1, then 1 to 2, and so on and so forth. So the first week of planets, aka Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, are all powerful the first week. And then the second layer of planets, aka weekdays, which is Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, are all powerful together the second week. And depending upon these days and certain hours, you can pinpoint certain beings. Now, why is this important? Just like you got 24 hours a day, you got balance. You got positive, aka higher self beings, and you got negative, aka lower self beings that you can definitely interact with. Now, why is this important? We as African people were able to directly communicate not just with these beings of planet Earth or other planets, but our ancestors as well. And our ability to communicate with them was usurped due to our language being taken from us, and we were given an artificial hybrid language. The English language is created of other language, and it's the only language that has no definite meaning. Each meaning has 5 other meanings. So you technically speaking something that's not even pinpoint and right and exact in communication. You only can assume or presume to know what somebody is saying to you under the guise of this language. You got words that got 4, 5 different meanings each word. Every English word has at least 2 meanings. So that being said, when you're dealing with the African people, we didn't deal with vernacular grammatical sound. We dealt with we didn't deal with sound that was produced by grammatical vernacular. We dealt with actual sound. So when you see African people and they speak like, and you want to play and you think that shit is funny because you've been Europeanized and you think the Western Hemisphere has given you a correct vernacular, me too, making this video is actually speaking a non-spiritual frequency. The African is still speaking a spiritual frequency. His tongue is still coming in contact with the roof of his mouth. He can still penetrate different dimensions and talk directly to the ancestors. Now, why is this important? By us not being able to contact our ancestors on this planet or any other planet or spiritual beings, period, we have been cut off from asking for help. So when you praying to somebody, first of all, let's get this understood. You're not even supposed to just pray all day or any time of day. Just like they tell you too much of anything is bad, too much goddamn praying is bad. Because what you're not being conscious of is this. If you can ask for something, but that don't mean you are giving a definition to who you asking for it from. So if you say, I want some money, you didn't say, I want a righteous person to give me some money. You said, I want some money. So if a demonic ass being brings a manifestation into fruition into your life, and then negative shit get to happen and the negative connotations get to happen, that's your fault. Because you put that. Remember, the universe is reactionary. The spirit beings' jobs is to guide us and to help us in our endeavors in these physical bodies, because we can't access our full spiritual potential while being encased in these vessels. So if you ask for help from somebody, don't be mad who you get it from. It's just like a motherfucking record deal. You think motherfuckers knew that the CEOs of these companies was gonna be gay and making them do homosexual shit just to get a #1 hit? No. All they said was, I want some money and I want a record deal. And they signed. And they got what they asked for, but they got a whole lot of extra shit that they didn't ask for with that. It's the same thing with us. And we being taught to pray on Sunday, at certain times, to an entity, and this entity is not in our favor at all. I said this, I'm going to say it again. In my lecture I gave, Spiritual Spiderweb, Satan and Jesus is the same motherfucker. This is why they both refer to themselves as the morning star. You always see Illuminatis and Satanists doing this. You see them gothic ass rock and roll motherfuckers doing this. And they say this is devil horns. This is also symbolic to the planet Venus. When you go look at the planet Venus on the astrological chart, it got the little horn looking loops on his head. This is symbolic to the planet Venus. Venus is dealing with Venus is not exactly a negative planet. Nothing is totally, let's say, negative, but nothing is totally positive. It's what you use it for during different time vibrations of the day. So Venus is a lower self planet. It's a sensually erotic planet, but also your lower self is aggressive and things like that is sensual. So Venus, Friday, right? And then Satan, Saturday, Saturn. They got you dealing with two totally different negative connotations and planetary frequencies back to back, and you don't even understand it. So when you dealing with for you Jesus loving motherfuckers and you satanic devil worshiping gothic motherfuckers, y'all have the same gods, aka negative spiritual beings and negative frequencies that you dealing with from these planets. Now when we dealing with science, you have what is called a solar prominence. A solar prominence is when a planet emits a gas, and that gas comes down into our atmosphere, and we ingest it biologically, and it affects us psychologically as well. So with that being said, the planet Venus and the planet Saturn are the two prominent planetary frequencies that we are being manipulated into feeding off of in order to digest their frequencies. But the frequencies that we're being trained to digest are frequencies that are coming to us at negative intervals and connotations of the day, when we should be digesting the frequency of the sun more so than the frequency of planets, because planets don't give off an electromagnetic spectrum at the velocity of a sun. Planets give off intelligence. The sun gives off intelligence. Planets digest intelligence. So we are being tricked to digest the intelligence of a planet, which is not a producer of knowledge. It is an ingester and a bearer of fruit. So we are being taught to deal with, let's say, the motherfucking apple instead of dealing with the seed. So we trying to plant the apple instead of plant the seed. So with that being said, if the sun is giving off a certain energy on this day, and you have certain spirit beings that are present on this day, you would never know, because you gonna pass that whole goddamn day at work or doing some stupid shit outside, chilling with 20 motherfuckers that ain't no good for your life. You in the strip club. You doing all kind of retarded shit when you should actually be at home doing meditations. And then the day when you do go to church on that Sunday and you give all of that frequency out that you were supposed to give out on other days to other ancestors and spiritual beings, you go give it to negative motherfuckers in the atmosphere. And then you wonder why your life, you keep getting negative fruit born to you. So with that being said, we have to understand the planets are not only subjective to certain powers predicated upon every other week of the month or certain hour intervals of a day. You have certain beings that are present at certain times of a day, and you gotta watch what the fuck you say. Just like somebody say, whatchamacallit, you get what you ask for. You gonna get what you ask for. But predicated upon when you ask and who you ask for it from will bear the result. Just because you want something does not mean that that's gonna be all you get. Period. You might get, it's just like blackmail or bribery. Okay, this is how America is run. We'll give you something, but we want something in return. When the universe is supposed to be a free giving, not supposed to, it is a free giving frequency. But due to manipulators of wicked ass Caucasians and the shit they like to conjure up in these Masonic lodges and shit like that, our natural African spiritual system has been manipulated, and our original deities have been replaced with the satanic deities of the Caucasian. So holidays, motherfucking sports events, all of this shit is ritualistic all the way down to religion. And all this shit does is keep you on a negative interval, which keeps you projecting your energy outward to the beings that the Europeans are conjuring up and serving their gods instead of your own gods. So now if I ask a motherfucker right now, name 10 angels out of the Bible and name the leader of the Bible, you can do it. You'll say Jesus, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel this, Archangel and that Archangel. You can do that. But those are all demonic deities of the Caucasian. If I tell you right now, name 10 ancestral deities that our ancestors prayed to 2,000 years ago, you can't do it. So that shows you've been cut off from your own spiritual, let's say, guiders and protectors. So just like everybody's born here with a spirit guide, African people, we belong to a certain sector of light entities. And we have been cut off from direct communication with our ancestors due to the usurpation of our language. And not only do we have a language that doesn't allow us to communicate with our ancestors, you're not listening to the ancestors right here because you're too busy being distracted by the motherfucker who distracted you from them in the first place. So, your ancestors might tell you, do this, do that, do this, get up, do that. But instead of doing it, one, you either lazy and you're not, or two, you're going against the will of your natural righteous spirit guide because, oh, I got to go to work, I'm not going to do that. Or, oh, I got to do this, I'm not going to do that. So now we are so in fear of bucking against our spiritual oppressor that we are ignoring our spiritual liberators that's contacting us from another frequency. So that being said, you have to understand the importance of our solar system. Solar system, the system of your soul, the system that guides your soul. You communicate with the solar system through your solar plexus, the soles of your hand, the soles of your feet. And just like our ancestors taught, the mouth speaks, which comes from the heart. The heart is the number one producer of emotional frequency. Your heart chakra creates your entire biofield. Your mouth speaks what your soul feels. Stop ignoring your heart because your heart is what's going to guide you out of oppression. Follow your heart. This is why it's so important for an oppressor to crush the will of a person. Because once you crush somebody's will, you close their fourth chakra, aka their heart chakra. In my video I did called Righteousness, I broke down how the heart chakra is the gateway between the higher and lower self. If you close off somebody's heart chakra, you cut off the connection they have between not just their higher and lower self, but their connection that they have to the solar system, which I broke down in the Pharaoh Allah University I did called 7 Levels of Existence. And if you cut somebody off from the solar system, if you cut somebody off from their own soul, and then you take their language and you cut them off linguistically from direct communication with their ancestors, you have trapped their ass into the matrix successfully to where you can manipulate them on the level of the ego and trick them into believing and guiding them into the wicked ass system that you have created for them on this wicked ass fake context or paradigm context that we call the matrix. So that being said, we have to understand, African people, we have to go back into being specific. We didn't just do shit randomly cause. You don't just pray at 3 o'clock because you want to pray. When you do this, when we dealing with ritual, okay, we got to stop letting people make shit sound so spooky. Everything has a good and a bad side, okay? If you get up and you put your clothes on and you brush your teeth before you leave the house, that's a ritual. You prepared yourself to go outside and take on the frequencies of the day. When you asking for something, or when you praying for something, or for example, prime example, which we all should be trying to do, get motherfucking free, there are certain times a day we should do things, but certain time periods, on certain days, during certain weeks of the month, in order to get back to where we gotta go. I'm going to be breaking this down in more in depth in my occult lecture when I can show slides and actually show y'all things, but I'm giving it to y'all as best as I can in this motherfucking this small little length video. So with that being said, understand we have to become precise with our magic, okay? With our ability to recreate, not manipulate, but recreate and go with the grain of atomic frequency, aka nature, aka cosmic electricity, so that we can mold life back into the way that we want it to be. Period. Once African people on a global scale get back on the same mental octave, the frequency of the planet will begin to shift to manifest that which we believe we wish to experience. So when we're dealing with divide and conquer, the reason you have to divide the minds of the people is because the damn planet and the solar system don't know how to respond to what the fuck we asking for. If you got a group of kids in the room and you ask them what y'all all want to eat, if they all say pizza, then you know to bring them a large pizza. But if one motherfucker say I want a sub, the other one say I want a salad, the other one say I want some chicken, the other one say I want some candy, then you got too many people that you trying to give, and if you only got goddamn $15 in your pocket, you can't appease everybody. So that being said, the universe deals with everybody individually in terms of your personal life. But in terms of reality in which we all will become subjected to, we all have to be on the same chord in order to ask for the same experience. For example, water tastes like water to every goddamn body. But if you put lemons in it or certain flavors in it, the taste will change or become modified for you. But you can only be individually catered to so much. But on a global scale, water is going to be water. It's not going to change because you want it to change. You have to change it individually. The universe works the same way. It's going to give the world, aka African people, because we control the frequency of the world, because we're the only ones with functioning pineal glands. And this is why we're being manipulated mentally to manifest the reality of our oppressor. Go watch my video I titled Global Frequency Manipulation. I break that down in detail. But with that being said, we, on a totalic scale, is going to have to come together in unison as one mind to act for the reality that we wish to experience. Period. Motherfuckers, you can't be trying to be a basketball player. You can't be trying to be a football player. You can't be trying to be a pimp. You can't be trying to be a drug dealer, because none of that's natural, and the universe is not going to give that to us. We have to get our minds back in sync with the will of the Creator and the will of our ancestors and the will of our own righteous intent in order to come together to put the world back into a rulership, a ruling power of righteousness, so that the planet can give us all we want on a singular conjunction. As well as we have to start working in the favor of the planet Earth, because this is a living celestial entity. This is a living being. Planets are living beings. They all produce sound and frequency. You can go look up Music of the Spheres. Go look it up. The solar system actually produces sound which can be recorded as music. Each planet has its own its own musical note and everything. So when you play instruments and you hit D notes and C notes and E notes, these are actually music notes that the planets are producing. And our ancient language, which was taken from us, helped us to produce these notes to where we could actually communicate directly with the solar system, right and direct. No middleman. So with that being said, when we're talking about speaking things into existence, it's hard for us to speak things into existence because we don't have the vernacular sound octave that we used to have. That's like telling somebody, grab what you want. Motherfucker, if I don't got no arms, I can't grab what the fuck I want. So if you're telling people, speak what you want into existence, this is why we got to do the scientific diligence research. We can't just do the historical research, because you can learn a truth, but if you don't do the scientific studies of what makes that a truth, you will never understand that may not be a truth anymore. So yes, it's a truth that we can speak what we want into existence, but it's also a truth that we was doing that with a certain vernacular octave that we don't have anymore. And some people have a strong enough heart chakra, and we produce enough will to, even through this enslaving language, we have the power to speak what we want into existence. But a lot of people have weak heart chakras, so they can't do that. So the point of this video is to let you know, you have to tap into your righteous frequency, because that is where the ancestors are trying to speak to you from. We have to understand, when we're dealing with spiritual enslavement and oppression, we have to understand how far we have actually been spiritually enslaved. That's like, goddamn, taking the gills off a fish. But you got the fish living in the water with a scuba diver tank now. And you telling the fish it can live underwater. The fish is no longer in its original state. African people, we are no longer in our original state. So not only is our environments not producing the proper frequencies and gases and physiological circumstances for us to grow, our vernacular expression is not producing the octave needed to contact certain beings to which we could draw information from and draw guidance from while in these physical vessels. So when you're dealing with the ancestors and you're dealing with ancient civilizations, African civilizations, because every ancient civilization was an African civilization, period. The reason every ancient civilization has multiple gods and multiple beings were not because they worship these beings. It was because they personified, alright, and gave these beings characteristics. And not only that, they were able to speak into the atmosphere and communicate with these beings through other substances such as DMT, marijuana, and things like that, where shamans will make you smoke marijuana or DMT and go into a dark meditative state. Or Egyptians, and I'm going to do a Farewell University on this, how the pyramid was a meditation chamber, how Egyptians went into the pyramid, aka the meditation chamber, and projected their consciousness out of their body and spoke directly with the ancestors and channel information and brought it back to the civilization. They were all on a different octave of frequency and sound. So with that being said, we have to understand we no longer produce that sound. So we have to start dealing with what we feel right here and being guided by doing what we know is right. Because if you don't listen to your inner voice at this particular time, motherfucker, you don't have no connection to the Creator. You don't have no connection to the ancestors. You don't have no connection to the natural wave frequency of what you should actually be doing in regards to what the Creator wants you to do at this day and time. So with that being said, it's like you blind. You can't see. So all you can do is feel. All right? So even though we're dealing with the voice, I'm going to use the allegory of being blind. We blind right now. We can't speak. We can't ask. We can't communicate. This is not our natural octave and frequency. So all we can do is feel. We got to feel our way around this motherfucking matrix. So start listening to what you feel. Okay? Because you can't see. You're blind. So that being said, family, understand how important it is when we're dealing with being a spiritual light being and being an African. Because melanin is condensed sunlight. The sun powers the entire goddamn solar system and you. So if you can't communicate with that which you are literally of, you are condensed sun, then you have to ask yourself why. And once you understand why, then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, how else do I communicate with the sun? You communicate with the sun through your chakras, which I broke down in my video, 7 levels of existence. You got 7 chakras, which are the color of the rainbow. The sun has a visible light spectrum within its electromagnetic spectrum. That's the color of the rainbow. Each of them spectrums and octave frequencies connect to you directly through your 7 spiritual vows, aka your 7 chakras. That's your last line of communication to the solar system. If you do not take heed to the vibrations that are channeling through your body, then it's pretty much a wrap for your ass. And I don't have no other words for you. It's a wrap for you, and you won't make the shift. It's simple as that. As this planet is being refreshed by the sun, as well as planet Nibiru at this point in time, it's gonna be a wrap for you. There's no other way I can say that. I'm not even trying to say it nice. So that being said, get back in tune with yourself and understand what has put you out of tune with yourself. And with that being said, I love y'all. Peace.